Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first parent and family webinar, The Journey of Childhood Emotions, Overcoming the Last 3 Years. I'm Tara Franklin, and I am thrilled to be one of your hosts for today's session. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey into understanding and supporting our children's emotional development. Today, I'm joined by Melissa Blotter, Director of Training and Development, and Jessica Van Hoos, Vice President of Education, Training, and Advocacy. Together, we're excited to explore the important topic of childhood emotions and the crucial role we all play in shaping the emotional well-being of our young learners. Before we dive into today's discussion, let me provide a brief overview of our 3 brands: Child Care Network, Sunrise Preschools, and My Small Wonders. At the core of our mission is a commitment to giving every child a great start in life. We strive to create a safe and caring environment during their time with us and offer an innovative educational experience that stays with them for life. As a collective, we are proud to operate 272 schools across 11 states, supporting nearly 28,000 families and counting. It's a testament to our shared commitment to the excellence and the trust you place in us as the partners for your child's early education journey. Now, without further ado, I'd like to pass the virtual microphone to someone who plays a pivotal role in shaping our educational approach. Please welcome Melissa Blotter, our Director of Training and Development. Melissa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tara, for that amazing introduction. As she said, I'm Melissa Blotter, Director of Training and Development for Child Development Schools, and I am incredibly honored to introduce Jessica Van Hoos, our VP of Training, Education, and Advocacy. Jessica has worked in early education for over 18 years and currently sits on several early education boards. She also partners with advocacy groups across the country to support early education and raise awareness about the importance of children's earliest years. She's truly a dedicated member of the early childhood community and is thrilled to talk this evening with each of you about the intricate world of childhood emotions. Jessica, over to you.
Thank you so much, Melissa and Tara. I am so excited to be here with all of you this evening. A quick note before we begin, the Q&A is open. We welcome you to add questions throughout the webinar. A few questions will be answered at the end of this webinar, but if we don't get to your questions, we plan to do some FAQs throughout our social media platforms. Please feel free to follow us on social media. We look forward to this time together. So I want to jump right in that childhood is a profound and formative period in our children's lives. It's a time when they experience an array of emotions from joy and wonder to sadness and even fear. This time, these emotions can shape our worldview and influence the way that we navigate the world as adults. Understanding and helping children overcome those emotions and challenges related to those childhood emotions is essential for our personal growth and our emotional well-being. To help our youngest learners overcome those emotions, we first have to explore the source. So why are we here? We're gathered here not just as participants in a webinar, but as a community of individuals, parents, caregivers, and educators. We're seeking knowledge and empowerment together. We're going to embark on a 30-minute journey together and dive deep into the complexities of those childhood emotions. We're going to offer insights, strategies, and even some real-life stories to inspire and guide us into the next steps of dealing with those emotions. So what do we know? We know that the COVID-19 pandemic had a profound impact on all of us, especially children. They face numerous challenges, from disrupted routines to heightened anxiety. In today's session, we'll begin to explore some of these emotions. We're going to start understanding their origins, discuss effective strategies that help children navigate those feelings in a post-COVID world. I do want to back up for a minute and just discuss that emotions are not a new problem. It's not something that formed post-COVID. We have different challenges because of COVID, but it's always been a difficult thing for children and adults to understand. So remember, during the lockdowns, we had social distancing measures. Children faced a lot of isolation, fear, and anxiety. There was a lot of uncertainty. When we think about our circumstances surrounding the pandemic, children were far less social. They were often stuck with screens instead of human interaction. I'm not saying that to point the finger at anyone. It's just a reality of what happened during that time and how we had to react. Many children didn't see caregiver faces and expressions due to masks, and many adults we know were extremely stressed, both emotionally and financially. This had a really big impact on children. Children had less access to in-person, high-quality care. We know that a lot of child care facilities were closed or were not consistent, and that was due to exposure to COVID-19. Children had less access to early intervention. It was much less frequent and available at the time. What we know about babies is babies are born with millions of neurons just waiting to connect. But then caregivers have to do that work to connect the neurons. We know that during COVID-19, there was less availability to do this because families were distracted. We were trying to work from home. There wasn't consistent, high-quality early education. What we also know is that at around age 3, the brain starts to prune those unused neurons. If you don't use it, you lose it. These experiences have left lasting impressions on our children's emotional well-being. So what's the actual impact of the pandemic on our children? What we're just now learning, and some of the research that's coming out is showing us that 91% of children that were born right before or during the pandemic have some sort of delay. Now, these are developmental delays, social emotional delays, and behavioral delays. They are showing to be, on average, about 4.5 months behind in delay, but those outliers really have a significant impact. There are children that are showing to be between 12 and 18 months behind, and children that are only showing to be a few months behind. I know that's a lot of information, and it's probably a little bit discouraging and overwhelming, but don't worry. Children are resilient, and there are ways to course correct. So the first step is really understanding the problem. Believe it or not, our children don't wake up with the intent to upset us. They're not attempting to challenge your authority or embarrass you in public. Now, a lot of you are probably rolling your eyes. It's truly not their intent every day. These are real issues internally, and they don't know how to cope. And you know what? Our first job is to understand and give ourselves some grace. We're going to walk through 3 steps today to help children regulate those emotions. So the first step I want to give you is that as an adult, and as the educator or caregiver, the first step in helping our children emotionally regulate is to regulate ourselves. We can't help children regulate if we're not in an executive functioning level of our brain. I want you to keep this top of mind, especially during these holiday seasons. If you're overwhelmed or feeling frustrated with your child and some kind of emotional outbreak, take some time, do some deep breaths, and remember, they're not doing this to me. I'm their caregiver, and my job is to share my calm, not my chaos, and to be ready to help my child or children in my class navigate this situation. And again, if you really think about the holidays and what's the source of a lot of these issues where children are having those emotional outbreaks and meltdowns, we know that that can come from being off of their routine or their schedule, or maybe they're hungry. Maybe we're eating a little bit later because Aunt Susie's a little bit late making that turkey or ham. I know these things happen. So if we really think about our regulation and the regulation of emotions for children, it's a learned skill. Just like so many other subjects. We teach children addition, subtraction, we teach them how to read, but we just expect sometimes that children know how to regulate very big emotions in their very little bodies. I know a lot of adults that also need some reminders that we have to self-regulate those emotions. So just like children aren't born knowing how to do long division, they're also not born knowing how to emotionally regulate. So step one is self-evaluation and self-regulation as an adult. I've got to evaluate myself. Am I frustrated or overwhelmed? Do I need to step away? If the child is safe, then feel free to step back, take a few moments for yourself, and evaluate, how am I feeling right now? What's the source of why my child is having a meltdown? Why are these emotions so big and in this moment? Or is something else going on that I can identify as the adult? And then you have to regulate yourself. Take some deep breaths, go into the situation with calmness, and then start helping your child regulate those emotions. Step two, we've got to verbalize emotions for children. In order for children to regulate those emotions, they have to identify the emotions first. And we have to help them. When a child stomps or shouts, you can say, oh, you stomped your feet because you're feeling angry. That's a big feeling. And we can't just talk about feelings when our children are in a tantrum or having that meltdown. We have to talk about them early and often. Now, it's okay if your child's already 4 or 5 years old and you haven't started talking about those emotions. The best time to start was earlier, but the second best time is right now. So start talking about those emotions that you're feeling or seeing your child feel. Verbalize those emotions for them. I'll never forget when my oldest child, Harper, was 3 years old. I walked into his classroom and his teacher told me a story about the day where Harper was standing by the back door and his arms crossed and his face all scrunched up. And she said, Harper, come over here. Don't you want to play in centers with your friends? And he said, I'm feeling very frustrated that we can't go outside, which was a huge win. I mean, the fact that he was able to verbalize that instead of throwing anything or having an emotional meltdown was really impactful. But I only tell you that to tell you that we practice that a lot. We practice how to talk about your emotions. I would verbalize them. Now, if your children is verbal and they're able to tell you that's not how I'm feeling, or I'm not mad, I'm angry, or I'm sad, accept that emotion and help them identify what that feels like. We had to start talking about our emotions very early so that children know what they're feeling and they're able to verbalize it instead of acting out. So step one is self-evaluate, self-regulate. Step two is verbalize those child emotions. Step three, I want you to really think about and find a breathing technique that works for you and your child. And I want you to practice it often. You may be thinking like, okay, Jessica, you really think that I can get my child to take deep breaths? Again, this is one of those things that takes quite a bit of practice, but find something that is exciting for your child. Deep belly breathing techniques are shown to reduce stress and anxiety in children and adults. If you're not practicing deep breathing today, you should start. Proper deep breathing is also responsible for ridding the body of up to 70% of toxins. Deep breathing relaxes our systems and increases our blood flow. It releases toxins and opens up our lung tissue. Children may need some visual cues in order to properly deep breathe from the belly. Stanford just completed a study in 2022, and it has a great visual cartoon for children. Sesame Street also has a good belly breathing video if you need to start teaching your child how to understand and properly deep breathe. The right breathing technique can help children connect with their body, settle their mind, and regulate those overwhelming emotions. In my family, we choose to do pizza breathing. Pizza breathing is one of my favorite techniques because I have a house full of boys and everyone loves pizza. Have the children imagine a piece of pizza, and you can talk about what kind of pizza they like or what toppings they want on the pizza. You can hold an imaginary piece of pizza in front of you and take a deep breath through your nose. Tell the child to imagine they're smelling the delicious warm pizza straight out of the oven. They can smell the cheese and the sauce and whatever other things they like on the pizza. And then we're going to ask them to exhale through their mouth and pretend they're blowing off the pizza to cool it off. So I want to take just a couple of minutes. We want to make sure that the children and yourself are deep breathing from their belly. We're going to take deep breaths through our nose, extending our belly and making it bigger. We want to make sure that we're extending that belly for at least 3 to 4 seconds and then exhaling for 4 to 5 seconds. Now, that's not the way we're going to explain it to children. We're going to go through imagining that we have this wonderful, delicious piece of pizza, and we're going to take a deep breath and smell the pizza and hold it for just 1 second. And then we're going to exhale and cool our pizza off. Now, we're going to want to do that at least 3 times. Research shows us that 3 to 4 deep breaths is really where we start to be able to regulate, where we start to see stress decrease and we start to see toxins decrease in the body. Again, you're going to want to do this multiple times. We need to practice it in a state where we are calm and comfortable, and then be able to implement it when we are having an emotional meltdown. So you can replace pizza with any other food in the world that you want, soup, cookies, whatever you want. You can also extend this. If your child is old enough, have them draw a picture of the pizza before you start practicing this. Remember that we want to practice this while we are still calm, and we want to be good at it before we are in emotional meltdown. Now, what I want to tell you also is that these type of things don't happen overnight. The pandemic took a toll on all of us. There was a huge piece of emotions, and we know that those are delayed because of the pandemic and our lack of having exposure to early intervention, our lack of social behavior. We know that post-pandemic children are less likely to be able to share their space with their peers or take turns with toys. They think that everything is theirs because they might have been alone for a while, or again, they might have not had a lot of social interaction. So this takes a lot of practice. Emotional regulation is challenging. I'm here to let you know that there are so many other teachers, family members, caregivers just like you in this really challenging season. The pandemic affected us and our children in ways we're still trying to understand, but there is hope. It takes a lot of dedication, understanding, practice, and consistency. So remember that step 1 is self-evaluate and self-regulate. As the adult, the caregiver, the teacher in the classroom, we have to be ready to contribute to a child's calm instead of their chaos. That's step 1. Step 2 is start verbalizing those emotions. Talk about what emotions that you're seeing with your children. And this can happen at a very young age, even toddlers. Remember that infants, we are not talking about infants today. Infants, when they cry or they are sharing with us that they have a need that they cannot meet. We really don't start this until we get to 2 years old and start talking about deep breathing, self-regulation, and describing a lot of those emotions. And then step 3 was finding a breathing technique that works for you and your family or you in your classroom. And you need to practice it really often. There are so many pieces of this emotions, guys, that just are overwhelming. And they can be for families, for caregivers, for teachers. But if we follow these 3 steps, I know that you will have some success. I appreciate you so much. I know this has been a quick time together. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Melissa, do we have any questions so far in the Q&A?
Thank you so much for your questions. This question is, I've noticed my child expressing sadness. How do your centers typically address and support children dealing with these types of emotions?
That's a great question. So if your child is feeling any kind of emotion, whether that's sadness or happiness, or you think they're stressed or have anxiety, we need to figure out where that's stemming from, but we do support it in our schools today. So our curriculum for all age groups includes a social and emotional component. So we talk about our emotions and our feelings every day in our curriculum. There is at least one activity daily where we talk about our emotions, and we talk about them in small groups, and we're able to explore those emotions. We also have what we call Flip It, which is from the Devereaux Center, and it's our emotional regulation tool that our teachers are trained on, and they are able to use in the classrooms to really talk to the children about their feelings. They give them limits. They have inquiries where they ask them questions and ways that we can approach the issues that we're having. And then they give them prompts. That's what the FLIP stands for. So we welcome you to, if you're not already a family that's in our schools, we welcome you to join us. Take a tour at the school if you are not a family with us today. And we would love to explore and show you some of that curriculum content and how we use it in our classrooms.
So there are a few more questions. I know we only have time for this last one. So what is one thing, Jessica, that as a parent they can do to help foster these emotional connections and responses?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So as a family member, as a parent or a caregiver, I think probably the best thing you can do to start fostering those emotional connections is really start talking about them. We've got to be able to verbalize those emotions, and it's going to feel a little bit awkward at first. But as a caregiver, something you can say is, Mommy's feeling really happy today because I got my hair done. Whatever it is, make sure that you are talking to your children. I am feeling overwhelmed today because I have a lot of meetings on my calendar. The more that we can talk to our children about those emotions that we're feeling, and we can help them identify the emotions that we're having as well as the ones that they're having, they will feel more comfortable asking questions and verbalizing those emotions with us. What I can also say is that it's okay to mess up as a parent, but it's also okay, and I would encourage you to apologize to your children when you make a mistake, right? That we need to be able to admit our mistakes to our children and really getting down on their level and making sure that we're connecting with them about how we're feeling, or apologizing maybe if we overreacted in some sense. Then having that conversation with our children, even at a very young age, it can be very basic in, Mommy overreacted today, and I just want to apologize to you. Can you forgive me? Even if their response is no, as toddlers or twos, or you think they don't understand, building that trust and connection at a very young age, and being able to portray and talk about what those emotions feel like and what they sound like and what they look like. And then as a parent, just knowing that it's our job to model what the appropriate reaction is. And so if you get mad and are, slamming your dishes around your kitchen, children are going to start modeling those things too. So being hyper aware of what the appropriate response to those things should be, being aware of our own behavior, and then talking about it with our children is just so impactful. Right? I think I am going to turn it over to Tara.
Thank you, Jessica and Melissa, for this enlightening presentation. It's truly inspiring to see the dedication and the collaboration that goes into shaping the educational experiences for our children. In addition to these wonderful tips that Jessica just shared, we're excited to share another valuable resource with you. Through the collaboration of our esteemed partners at the Devereaux Center, Lakeshore Learning, Discount School Supply, and Scholastic Learning, we've compiled a treasure trove of social and emotional resources designed to support your child's development at home. These resources cover a range of topics, offering insights and activities for all ages that nurture social and emotional skills for your little learners. We understand the importance of fostering a well-rounded educational experiences, and these materials aim to provide practical tools for you to continue the journey of childhood emotions beyond the classroom and into your home. Now, as we wrap up today's webinar, I want to extend a warm invitation to our audience. We would love to connect with you. Whether you're a current member of our school communities or a prospective family interested in learning more, we invite you to reach out. If you're interested in touring one of our schools, please don't hesitate to contact us at the numbers listed on the screens. If you have questions or specific topics that you'd like for us to cover in upcoming webinars, please reach out to us at cdscommunications@childdevelopmentschools.com. And for our families and friends who want to stay connected and updated on the latest from our schools, you can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We invite you to join our online community to stay informed about educational insights, upcoming events, and the fantastic experiences our children are having across our 272 schools. Before we say our goodbyes, I want to express our sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us today. We appreciate the trust you place in us, and we look forward to continuing this journey together. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions. We'll be hosting future family webinars, diving into various aspects of childhood development and education. Your participation enriches our community, and we encourage you to join us for those valuable sessions. Thank you again for being part of today's webinar. We value your partnership and the opportunity to be a part of your child's educational journey. Until next time, take care and goodbye, everyone.